Join me on Wednesdays, 5 until 6, will you? And yes, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you so very much for joining me on In the View for this midweek Wednesday afternoon interactive talk right here on 102.7 1300. And of course, In the View, of course, it's a time when we will put someone on the spotlight, maybe to address a topic, or maybe to put the spotlight on the candidate in which we will be addressing this afternoon. And hope you who are doing the ride home or maybe heading out to work, who are with me, can hang in there just for the hour, and then you'll be able to benefit from what is discussed. Well, this afternoon I'm here with Mr. Leopold Merrick, who is, of course, one of the candidates on the National Alliance slate. And let me just get this out of the way. You're hearing lots of candidates at the moment, those who can afford to buy their way on buy time to give themselves exposure. But I'm happy to be able to share some with you, and I want a level playing field, because what would happen is that you'll get an opportunity to hear from just about all of the candidates, and you'll be able to look through what they have to say and determine whether or not they merit your support. Hence the reason for this, and there's going to come a time when some we won't be able to hear from, whatever. Maybe they come to your house, but in whatever way you're dealing with this, I'm happy to speak to this gentleman. I happen to have him before me at one time, dealing with insurance issues, but this time he's thrown his hat in the ring and he's here to share his vision. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Merrick. Thanks for having you. You're putting on a good smile.
Mr.
Is that
Wendell,
positive?
Definitely. With you, Wendell, it's always positive. Always positive.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be definitely a very lively discussion. So I'm very open to seeing how, the discussion plays out. And also for the general public, because, hey, I'm a new candidate. And people want to know, is this individual someone viable, or is this just another run of the mill? So thank you once again, Wendell.
Yeah. If we can fish the best of the best out of our communities and put them up, I'm all for that. Because at the end of the day, we want the best from our people. But sadly, Mr. Merrick, and before you start talking about your vision and some of the practical solutions that you bring, how do you feel and how do you respond to folks who are of the opinion, yeah, like you say, it's the same run of the mill, the same type? How do you respond, and what would you say to people who might be holding that view?
Look, I also sympathize to an extent as well, because, hey, at some point in time, it feels as though, nothing is really changing in a very significant manner. And I can understand why the average voter or just the average resident would feel like, hey, I'm pretty much just tired of politics. Mm-hmm. I don't have any luster for it. I have no appreciation for it right now. I just, a lot of people are very, for the most part, disheartened. Mm-hmm. They're in a sense just dismayed by how things have played out. But politics is a very hard business in terms of pleasing everyone. Mm-hmm. So you're going to also have those pockets of individuals that you won't be able to satisfy their needs.
Yeah. So you understand that?
Most definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
That's part and parcel of the game.
Yeah. How do you feel, though, coming from the business sector and having decided to be honest, be part of the solution when it comes to what we are searching for and would like to see in place for this great country? How do you feel getting into this business of being involved in politics, and how badly do you want to see change?
Look, I think as much as the next guy, I want to see change. I think everyone essentially yearns for change. We want to see St. Maarten in a different limelight. We want to see St. Maarten at a different, let's say, level. So definitely it's something that everyone aspires to. But in terms of how I view governance, let's say, from the outside looking in, and considering my private sector experience, I would say that it's important for governance of a governing coalition to have persons with private sector experience. I believe a lot of those skill sets translate very well into governance. Why? Because in the private sector, you don't necessarily always have all the resources at your disposal. Hence, you would have to become very resourceful. You would have to figure out ways and means to achieve a particular objective, regardless of whatever the circumstances may be. Hence, persons with this type of, let's say, mind frame, with this type of logic, with this type of first nature or second nature, some would say, I think it adds value to governance, to shifting the governance culture in terms of us being able to achieve solutions that are very practical for the everyday St. Martiner. So I do believe that me being in the private sector, those skills I've developed over time, I think they would translate very well into Parliament.
Well, I hope that's possible when it comes to another element that plays in there, because in the private sector, there is few bureaucracy. You're going to get something done, you're going to do it, provided the money's there. But there's a level of frustration when it comes to doing it from the governmental level, because the bureaucratic system takes so very long, and that can cause some frustration. Ready for that?
Most definitely. Look, I can't be naive about the environment I would be entering into. God spare. So it's definitely very crucial for me to also highlight the realities or the challenges that I may face, let's say, entering into that sort of environment. Indeed, there is a lot of challenges where bureaucracy is found, and government is known as the chief bureaucratic institution, known to mankind in a sense. So my perspective on that is this. I believe we can figure out a way to get the average person to agree on common sense solutions and, let's say, policies. And if we can manage to secure such a consensus that just brings everyone's common sense ideals together, I think we'll be able to push past the challenges of bureaucracies. Let's say, for instance, during Hurricane Irma, we managed to get a lot of things pushed through. Why? Because we understood the sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Everyone understood the sense of urgency, and that you would also suffer if this was not effectively managed or approached. So it's very critical, I would say, Wendell, for us to approach things from a very common sense perspective, because that I would believe to be as the path or the direction as to where St. Martin needs to be headed into, in that form of direction.
Something else that may come that you may have to deal with, and I'm being very practical here, because I think by doing so, hopefully we'll get the best out of your character. But one of the things that you have to push past sometimes is to get an ear from the old school persons who are involved in politics, and you have to definitely find yourself in a system where you are going to be sitting with coalition members. Each one have their own interests. You're getting started now. God knows what it's going to be like for you in the next term, because certainly your practical approach is very much needed. But when you have to fight against folks who are going to, most people who are in government want to stump your chest, being the one responsible for making things happen, when they don't see it holistically as a general together approach.
Well, it's also a perspective of life as well, too. If you are by nature a very practical person, you view various elements and scenarios within your life from a very practical approach as well too. So just to give, let's say, some context, look, aside from Parliament, I'm going to also have to toggle and have, let's say, back and forths in a sense of getting my perspective across and also understanding the perspective of others as well in turn. These are elements that I'm going to experience, let's say, in life with my family. Let's say we experience this within the party. We also experience this within Parliament, but you also experience this on the road.
Yeah.
So I don't believe, once again, that our people are incapable of coming in agreement where common sense policies are concerned, Wendell. This is the key thing. We want a strong St. Maarten. We want a strong local economy. We want to ensure that our young people have a bright future. How are we able to establish this? Very practically. We're able to do this once we're able to just push aside unnecessary egos. There's a lot of warring factions, a lot of rivalries in Parliament. Unnecessary stuff, Wendell. However, I can't be naive. I don't want to come off naive, let's say, and say that, hey, we can simply just rise above it. It's not really a matter of rising above it, Wendell. It's about being very practical. You can't get rid of egos. So what you do, you figure out how to align at least the majority's interests. Figure out what that interest is. Align it. And then we center and direct that energy towards a chief aim and objective. That's how we get things done.
But at the same time, you said that it's unnecessary for some of the political wrangling that may take place in Parliament, but it's the nature of the game.
Oh, definitely.
These guys want to make sure that they're heard, or they appear to be fighting the interests of the common man. And the best way to do it is on the floor of Parliament. You have a governing body and you have an opposition. So you would always get that wrangle. In any case, I don't want to believe that you are not up to what's going on, but obviously to appeal to the public who you would want your support from, what are some of the things that you maybe want to put finger on or you'd like to champion? And even though you may not hypothetically be elected into Parliament, you would be in a body of a political party that you might be able to pull some strings. What are some of the things that have concern to you?
Definitely, Wendell, the average St. Martiner deals with a number of issues, a number of challenges. I believe that a government should focus on ensuring security for the people. Let's say if that security be in the form of taking on or shouldering the burdens that are economically and socially affecting our income, I think that is something that government should chiefly focus on. I think it's something that should be a modus operandi for government.
Can you identify one thing that you have in mind?
Let's say, for instance, lower grocery prices. We tend to see that on the island, it's very challenging to manage and contain inflation where groceries are concerned. Let's say those specific food items are the items within the basket of goods. These are items that we need to figure out how are we able to contain these price levels just to ensure that the average St. Martiner, who already is struggling with a, let's say for the most part, stagnant income, is able to still manage their household. That is what's taking place right now, Wendell. The difficulties of being able to manage your households. The average St. Martiner has challenges where groceries are concerned. They have challenges where high gas prices are concerned. They also have issues with, do we have a future for our young people? So these are all elements that I think if we are unable to really tackle going forward in the future, we would definitely not be in a place to protect our autonomy. We need to protect our autonomy. The way in which we're able to accomplish this, Wendell, is through a strong local economy. Not only through a strong local economy, but positioning St. Maarten in such a position that, hey, we are able to push back against certain kingdom positions that are primarily stemming from the Dutch's, let's say, influence or preference. And these are things that I think the average St. Maartener wants us to show some level of, let's say, of gravitas in terms of our ability to position the island in such a way despite the challenges that we are currently facing, despite the challenges of the rivalries within Parliament, despite the challenges of socio-economic challenges such as COVID and Irma. The average person wants to hold us accountable because they know what the future holds for them. They know what type of future they envision for themselves. And we need to stand in alignment. We need to just bring public policy in alignment with that vision.
Mm-hmm. But, you know, at times that might be the focus, and then it has to be shifted because of so many other elements that are playing in the whole concept of governing. And as a newcomer, how prepared are you to make sure that, well, first of all, you must be able to see your personal vision fitting in the party in which you are part, platform, what they want to do. You must be able to see that. And if you don't get it, I think you will only understand that it is a slow process, because gradually, once you get in the ears of the right person, it can easily be incorporated into the plan, especially when it's in the best interest of St. Maarten. But how ready are you to identify this is not YEAR, this is EAR, in the ears of someone who might be able to push your vision forward?
Well, I know when it comes to many of the young candidates, persons tend to think that they are unaware of the realities that we live in. It's going to be an uphill battle. The NA, we are striving for, let's say, total dominance. You know, a nice majority of 8 seats will do us well. However, the realities may be, we may find ourselves in another coalition. We have to prepare ourselves for those realities. We know exactly what we want to champion. The NA wants to champion economic development. They want to also champion economic social development as well too. The NA has a very broad perspective as to how they view the future going forward. We have a very strong leadership. We have a very strong list. The only thing we need to do is connect with the average electorate. These are things that I believe, Wendell, we have been able to accomplish to some extent, successfully, I would add. We've been doing a lot of canvassing events throughout the many districts. These things have brought a lot of appreciation to those neighborhoods, because a lot of people actually feel, Wendell, that they're not being heard. And when you can see, let's say, your PM, or your Minister of Romy, or your Minister of Finance, or even your Minister of Justice, all out there, and of even your minister, your MPs as well too, it gives the neighborhood a sense of like, man, these people, I know it's election season, but they actually reach my door. It's a lot of people out here, but they actually reach my door. And they weren't asking me for a vote. They just wanted to know what exactly are my concerns. I think, Wendell, the people want accountability, and they want that confidence that persons, or that the people in power, are truly listening to what they're saying. But the thing is, once we get in, we need to make sure that we act upon those things. We need to execute.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be a challenge executing the mandate. But it's what the people have put us there for. That's our problem. That's not their problem. The people don't care about the challenges in Parliament. No. They just want to know that, hey, this is not affecting my income no longer. GB is no longer a problem. The economy, improving, diversifying. The future, it is looking bright. These are things that the average St. Maarten wants. They want to make sure that, hey, I'm positioning myself in such a way, Wendell, that my children can go away to study comfortably, come back. They have a 2-story apartment here. They have another property here. I can start giving back to my people. I can start giving back to my family. I can start building generational wealth. These are things that the average St. Maarten wants to do, but it's just a pipe dream for them right now. Why? Because we've been primarily focusing on all these petty rivalries within Parliament. 16 square miles, Wendell, of unimaginable potential, but we just focusing on petty rivalries, nonsensical disputes, when we should just be focusing on diversifying the economy. Indeed, tourism is extremely important. By now, Wendell, we should have figured out how to master tourism. We have persons, boasting of their prominence within the industry, but we need to be able to reach to a place of that has been an industry that we've mastered. Let us now diversify. We need to bring more money into the coffers, more money into the people's hand. We need to create more and better jobs for the people.
Mm-hmm. All right, folks, for those of you who might have tuned in late and listening to this good gentleman speak, you may want to know, but who is he? But who is he? Maybe you've heard him before as well. His name is Leopold Merrick. He, of course, is here with me for the full hour. He is running on the National Alliance slate, and we'll hear some more of him, I'm sure, no question. But Mr. Merrick, while you understand a lot of these dynamics, there are other things that are playing as well that the average person would be deterred by simply because whether or not it's on the agenda of the government to get these things done, it's taking so long to see the changes, so long for them to see anything materialize when it comes to changes that are necessary to appease the general public and what's going on. So with you getting into government, hopefully, because I'm sure you're fighting towards that, these things are what needs to be taken into consideration, and these things are what you're going to be judged by. I mean, with the bureaucracy that we've talked about a little bit earlier, and nothing ain't happening, then we're going to say, you see, more of the same. How do you respond?
Wendell, we need to put a fire to the feet of Parliament and to the feet of ministers as well. That's important. I view Parliament, or the representatives, or the members of Parliament, as essentially the voice of the various pockets of our communities. Our communities need to feel comfortable enough to hold us accountable. They need to feel as though, hey, you are accessible, you are reachable, for me to put your feet to the fire. I placed you there for a particular reason. I can give a few examples of how advocacy, especially during a heightened electoral season or cycle, can start creating movements. Let's say, for instance, with the liquefied natural gas project that was proposed to Parliament. It is such a great blessing that we have seen now, Wendell, that the Minister of Tiet has mentioned that over the past 5 months, he was contacted by this group to present a proposal for an LNG project here, a transshipment port, which would add a lot of money to St. Martin's coffers. And it is only recently that, he took it upon himself to visit with a group and sit down with these heads or the executives of the presenting or proposing group that made the offer. And we're seeing movement now on these various projects. These are projects, Wendell, that have been on the table, but we haven't been acting on them. So it's not really necessarily a matter of bureaucracy, a matter of motivation. How can we motivate our members of parliament? How are we able to effectively motivate our ministers to act in our best interests? We need to be very strong advocates. So in a very short time, I would say, Wendell, in terms of my advocacy of certain elements within society, we have seen a lot of activity taking place. So we can make change. It's based upon our ability to effectively advocate.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got to take a break in a minute, but before I get there, I want to point out that it appears that the most least of the productivity that is expected from that circle of people, those who are elected into office, is often in the parliament, where it seems like nobody pays attention to many of those laws that are on the books, where once these laws are in place or updated or upgraded or better suit our present situation, it will put the fire or put the push on the ministers who are actually sitting in the day-to-day operation of government to now execute these things. And those we don't see much from here. And you, of course, are not vying. You're not here sitting because you have interest in wanting to be elected and to become a minister, but of course in parliament. So again, it would mean that somebody would have to take a step up, have the guts to be able to visit some of these pieces of legislation, and at the same time, maybe you can think about that. I'm hearing my music in my ear, which tells me that it's time for me to take a break. I certainly don't mind. We'll do that, folks. Again, I'm here with Mr. Leopold Merrick. When we come back, we want to challenge him on whether or not there is any aspirations to pick up that part of Parliament where, policies and laws put in place that matches our present day situation. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue. Am I too hard on you?
No, we're doing good so far. We're doing good.
That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligations to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
It doesn't matter who is running the country, we must hold our politicians accountable. How can you get through the doors of the government and speak to those in charge? There is one way to express yourself. Speak out. On The View, let's hold our politicians and leaders accountable.
St. Peter's Pharmacy is your hometown. Pharmaceutical suppliers and healthcare providers with a wide range of services to help you improve on your fighting power against severe or mild illness. From over-the-counter prescription drugs to basic pharmaceutical supplies and cosmetics, our friendly and courteous staff is there to help you whenever you come in. Open 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. Mondays through Saturdays. Located at number 8 Elby Scott Road in Cul-de-Sac. St. Peter's Pharmacy, closer to you when you need us most. Hi, St. Maarten. I'm Wendell Moore. Join me on Wednesdays, 5 until 6, for interesting discussions on important subjects. Or send me your comments on Facebook and Twitter. And yes, I'll take your phone calls too. All on The View, Wednesdays, 5 until 6. Sponsored by St. Peter's Pharmacy. Closer to you when you need us most. Join me on Wednesdays, 5 until 6, will you?
Hi there, welcome back, and of course, just want to give a shout out to the folks who are following us on live on Facebook. Yeah, good afternoon to you all, and all those names. Can't call them, but it's nice to know you're watching. It's hard for me to consider what you're hearing as political rhetoric, because certainly it's coming from someone who have never been involved in politics, at least not directly. May have indirectly, but only he can speak to that. But Mr. Merrick, now that I'm trying to be safe anyhow, now that we have been able to identify what are some of the needs and what needs to be done, I believe the question is, what are some of the practical solutions and approach when it comes to getting them done? No one is taking responsibility at this point for not doing. Usually it's cast on to those who have been there throughout the ages, and not even them you can hold responsible at this time. When you put your feet to the fire and you're on the grind, the responsibility becomes yours. I'm sure that somewhere in the back of your mind you have some practical solutions to some of these needs. But I think your big challenge would be seeing that fit itself into an already existing political party of which you're a part. Anything you can add to the approach? And coming out of the break, just before we went to the break, we were talking about whether or not the members of parliament are really doing enough in terms of making sure that our laws are where it's supposed to be, so that it can produce much needed finances for our government coffers to get a lot of things done. Because even though you have ambition and wanting to do lots of things, unless there is finances to make it happen, that is also another challenge.
Well, that's the primary focus behind my candidacy. Bringing awareness, highlighting the importance that we need to have something I call enterprising solutions. Enterprising solutions are essentially policies that either generate revenue for government, it shoulders the economic and social burdens that affect our income, and also it diversifies our economy. Okay? So I believe, Wendell, if we are able to effectively focus on these three elements, it places the country in a more advantageous positioning going forward in the future. Going back to your point about the performance within Parliament, many would have their opinions on that. However, once again, there's a lot of minutiae, there's a lot of things at play within Parliament that the average person doesn't see. So these are elements that also create further bottlenecks for Parliament to be as, let's say, active as they should be. What I want to see, or what I want to challenge the average St. Martin or the average electorate, I want to charge you, the voter, listening. It is your responsibility to hold these individuals accountable. You are the one who either voted for them without an incentive, monetary incentive, or you simply voted for this person based off of your belief and confidence and conviction in them. Regardless of how you chose to vote, you are responsible. Hence, no one else can be blamed for where we're at. It is us, the people. If we want to see something slightly different or even significantly different, it's not as though the power is in someone else's hands. The power is actually in your hands. Be effective with that power. However, how I foresee myself offering a very significant contribution to Parliament or to the people of St. Martin is via my pragmatism, my understanding of the times and the seasons that we're in. We're in a very crucial and critical moment in our history, Wendell. If we fail to identify our identity, Wendell, we will definitely lose or risk losing our autonomy. So that is what I'm saying in terms of my ability to contribute. I believe solution-oriented, practical options is what the people need.
But truly, do you think we're ready for that? We understand that? We have a culture in the way we go about electing our members, government representatives. And what you're talking is a challenge to the point where the responsibility now is in the hands of the voters to be able to effect whatever change they would want. But when you have a culture of doing things the same way, we end up with the same people being elected, and we are also looking for a different result. You think we are there yet? We are ready to demonstrate that we understand our responsibility?
Oftentimes, Wendell, change tends to matriculate or materialize in a very, let's say, incremental manner. Nothing short of a revolution would cause significant change. However, unlike many other countries in the world, St. Martin is not as corrupt as people would like to paint it out to be. Indeed, you can't get around the, let's say, the behaviors of self-interest. Self-interest is all over the place. You can't get around it. However, what I have noticed this electoral cycle around, the average voter doesn't really care about that. They don't care about the little money under the table. They don't care about the buying votes. They actually care about policies. They want to know, okay, we had a couple of years of this. How are we going to actually make this island look real good? How are we going to really transform this 16 square miles? How are we going to really diversify our economy? How are we going to push back against certain kingdom positions that have been influenced by the Dutch? Accountability. I believe this is the season of accountability. If there has been any other electoral cycle in which the people have now reached a place that, look, the politics really won't work, I believe it is this electoral cycle.
What do you mean by home field advantage?
home field
Because that is something that I've been paid attention based on you submitting that to me as part of your interest. But I think if you can break that down for the average person to understand, they might even get a better picture of how you're thinking. What is lacking?
home field advantage. So, over my short time of existence here on Earth, I would say, looking at St. Maarten, you don't really see where the local business has a strong footing or a strong, let's say, market share within the local economy. To be honest with you, it is more the expectation that a local business doesn't necessarily get the support from the local economy. Support, I view it in a variety of dimensions. It could be financial support. So a government could say, hey, we're going to identify a particular business with a specific profile that has the potential to scale regionally. And what we're going to do, we're going to invest into this company and help grow it further. So in this instance, government performs or functions like a venture capitalist. So now with all of these different ideas, all these different business concepts that persons have, let's say, been dreaming about over a course of many years, they are now able, under this type of perspective or culture where home field advantage is encouraged, to bring forth that idea, birth that idea, because the local economy will support you. If it's not financially, they'll support you in lowering your taxes, giving you certain tax incentives. Now, I would like to highlight that the Minister of Finance, going forward in the upcoming parliamentary session, has a slew of taxes that a slew of tax reformation that would be presented to Parliament to be implemented. And we're going to see a lot of decrease, a lot of reduction taking place in, let's say, your income tax. So from the average 34 and change percent down to roughly 22%. So that is something that I think that the average St. Maartener can take some level of appreciation in, because, your Minister of Finance has heard your concerns, has heard some of your cries, and now we can see that there's certain policies in the works about to be manifested.
But not saying it yet.
It's very
Provide
I understand
proof.
That. I understand that.
This is coming.
I understand that. Once again, Wendell, when it comes to public policy, one thing I always champion, as I mentioned, is enterprising solutions. So once a policy can minimize the burden, the socio-economic burden of the everyday St. Maartener, I'm in support of that, because it's lowering that burden. And government then is deciding, hey, well, according to the Minister of Finance, they would take another approach, an approach of, let's say, indirect taxes. So once again, these are things that should be effectively debated on the floor of Parliament. But in terms of reducing the income tax from 34 to 22, I definitely commend that.
Well, it's always heartwarming to hear new ideas and everything else that might be coming forward. And a person of your intellect, of course, has me thinking, I wonder what would happen if this person has to get seasoned into the political system that we have, and still have the desire and interest of wanting to translate that work into results for ordinary people, so that we can get a trickle-down effect where financially we are doing well because there are personal opportunities for people to involve themselves in business. And at the same time, we are seeing some social projects that would make our people comfortable, because at this point, those persons who are looking for greener pastures elsewhere, and it says of how difficult it might be in St. Maarten, but the change we still have to wait and see. Have you given that any consideration?
To answer that, I would say this. I'm not comparing myself in any form to Moses, but during a particular time in the Israelites' history, Wendell, especially under Moses, these folks went around the desert of Mount Sinai for about 40 years prior to them entering into the promised land. What I believe St. Maarten needs right now are leaders who understand that if we need to suck salt, let's say for the next 4 years with unpopular policies, we need to suck salt. Why? Because we need to put these people in a better position, regardless of how they feel right now in the immediate. Because sometimes people can't see further than their nose. And it's understandable if things are challenging every day. It's difficult for you to have such a, let's say, far-sighted type of approach to your everyday life. But that is where leaders come into play. Leaders now need to understand that we can't take the easy route. Yes, some of our state-owned enterprises may be costing us money. Maybe they're essentially pits that money just fall through. However, these are assets. Wendell, we do not have any natural resource on this island. The closest thing to a natural resource is all of our state-owned enterprises. If we are able to effectively manage these institutions, Wendell, why can't we scale those regionally? Why can't we expand our economic footprint to the rest of the Caribbean region? Why can't we do that? Why can't our Telem be transformed to such an extent that it becomes the next Google? Why can't our GB be transformed to the extent that it becomes the next Tesla? Why can't our PGIA NV airport not purchase other airports in the region or have some sort of interest in these regional providers? Why can't these things be materialized? These are not far-fetched, Wendell. It is not figments of imagination. It is practical and possible.
But what about considering whether we first have to be in control, fully in control of these enterprises, to the point where we can expand and show interest in other areas? One case in point, GB. We have not even gone in the area of solar energy. So we can't even say that we have mastered our craft to the point where we will look at what Center Statius is doing and say, let's take that over. So first we have to be in control of managing what we have.
Well, no, my thing is, I feel that we tend to downplay ourselves as a people. We are quick to say St. Maarten is not a real place. We're quick to say that, you know what, these people ain't taking care of it. Let me just leave the Dutch come in. We're quick to say all of these things, Wendell, but I challenge every St. Maartener. You tell me honestly if you feel as though you don't know a person capable of managing their household. You tell me if you don't know a person capable of managing a local business. You tell me if you don't know a person capable of managing effectively one of our state-owned enterprises. We have had numerous splendid executives in the past. We have had, not numerous, but let me say we've had a handful. And yes, certain things have transpired, but is not to say we as a people are incapable, Wendell, of managing our own affairs. You want to tell me that you, Wendell, living here on the island for so long, interacting with so many different individuals, feel as though, hey, we don't really have people who can manage our own affairs here? No, man, I don't think that's a reality. I think it's just a perpetuated narrative, but it's not a reality. We need to reach back to a place, Wendell, of national pride. We need to foster that. We need all of these elements, the dilapidation of our society, the exasperation of the brain drain phenomenon, the Dutch, applying pressure on us locally. All of these have a are directly a result, Wendell, of us not having a strong identity, of us not having national pride, of us saying, you know what? Forget what they want to say. It's what's in our best interest.
So you're saying that there should be a directive to put us in a place where we must believe in ourselves and in our capability to do things for ourselves. But that should be matched as well with given the opportunity, because sometimes that is lacking.
Let me speak directly to the listeners. Let me speak directly to the voters, Wendell. You don't have to vote for me. You don't even have to vote for my party. I've been hearing a lot of people saying they're so frustrated they're not going to even vote. Let me tell you something. Vote. Find somebody that you could resonate with. Find someone that you connect with. Find someone that speaks your language. Find someone that you can possibly have confidence in, because you need to vote. If in the next 10 years, listener, if in the next 10 years, the average Maarten who's listening to this program right now, if you do not vote, this island of ours will look very different. We may even become a Dutch province. So vote.
What about, now that you say that, who are the ones who more resonate with your message? When you go out, I'm sure you speak to people, let them know that you're vying for public office. Who are the folks that you cater to the most?
Definitely a lot of undecided voters, because many of the undecided voters, they want something refreshing. They want something that shows viability in terms of competence. And if you're able to connect with them on a very personal level, they would appreciate that they have someone accessible enough to hold accountable. Once again, Wendell, accountability. I feel like a lot of people who have been, let's say, gravitating to my campaign have been appreciating that element within the campaign.
Yeah.
Accountability.
Yeah.
If they hear something on the road about me, if they see me somewhere, if they see one of my posts on social media and they disagree, or if they heard an interview and they have remarks,
You would hear.
man, I'm hearing it, Wendell. I'm hearing it. People are actually reaching out to me to tell me, hey, I have some constructive criticism that I want to give you. And I'm like, okay, share it.
Yeah.
So look, also too, I try not to, on social media there's a section in which you can hide the negative comments.
Yeah.
I try not to do that because I actually want to engage with the negative comments, not in a negative manner, but to just highlight, hey, let's bring your negative comment back to policy.
You're not thin-skinned, are you?
I would like to think I'm not. I would like to think I'm not.
But a lot of that is in our politics. They can't stand critical thinkers.
Definitely.
But you're saying you're wide open.
Oh, definitely.
Can you put an age bracket to some of the persons, or you're general in terms of
let's
the
see,
folks who show interest?
Let's see, once I'm on the road, it's primarily my pockets. So my pockets are my bases, essentially. the church community, it's professionals, and it's also the youth.
You mean those persons who are familiar with your personality and see you as a prime candidate?
In terms of persons who I've been noticing on the ground, once I've been reaching out to persons on the ground, those individuals who've been gravitating have either fell into either of those categories. The church community, because I've had a very long-standing relationship there, and also I'm very conservative in terms of my politics and my personal beliefs. And then secondly, as well, to the professional community, private sector. I've done a lot of business, and the private sector appreciates persons with resourcefulness and pragmatism.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the youth. I'm quite young still, Wendell.
I can see. Hence the reason for me.
I don't have the milk in the face any longer, but I'm quite young still, Wendell. And so I would say that with the youth, they can sense what's genuine, and also too they want something that they are attracted to. So I think my base is pretty decent. So roughly speaking, 25 to 45.
You haven't gotten to the hostility just yet.
Oh man, you get those. You get those.
I have to leave it there though. I just had to bring that up because that's part of what happens in the kitchen.
It's expected. It's expected.
All right. Mr. Leopold Merrick, thank you so much. Hopefully, if the people can hear from you some more, they will give you some consideration, I'm sure, because, I like what I hear.
I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, folks. I want to thank you too as well, those of you heading home or heading out and sitting in the car, didn't move because you want to hear what this guy had to say. Well, we've come to the end of it, and an invitation is extended to you next Wednesday afternoon when we'll do this challenge all over again. You take care of yourself. We have to head over to the news now, so I'll say goodbye and see you next week.